Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Kevin Atlas. I am the first Division I basketball player to play with a disability. I lost my arm at birth, and I've had an incredible journey from injuries to meeting the president to opening up a door to inspire millions of disabled people all over the world. And I'm a motivational speaker. I've traveled all 50 US states and every continent in the world at 30, and I just aim to elevate humanity in any way I can.
Yeah, that's quite a story. Can you talk about uh, do you remember if you've always felt like, hey, I can do it, or was there a time whenever you really felt like there's like this big barrier and you had to work up the courage to get over?
I think the coolest part about humans in general, I mean, this is such a cool project that you're doing, and who knows who will find it someday or dig it up. But I think the coolest part of humans are our adaptability, adaptation. So, whether it be a physical disability, whether it be a mental struggle or an obstacle that seems impossible to overcome, and our ability to overcome them, I think is all mental. It's a belief game. It's something where you have to align yourself and manifest and push yourself further than you thought was possible. And I think that's beautiful that humanity is capable of doing that. That we are pieces of art, and that's just such a cool aspect of it, a cool variable. But yes, there was times when I didn't honestly think that it was possible. There was times when I had all these scholarships. I was one of the top ranked player in California in the United States, and I broke my leg the same day I met the president of the United States, flew it on Air Force One to meet me because I was playing so well with one arm, and there'd never been a one arm player. So I got to meet the president, and then I broke my leg the same day, lost all my scholarship offers. So I was so discouraged. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, and I had a hard time kind of overcoming that. So there were difficult times in life where you just feel like things are really working against you, and those are the times that really show your character to its absolute core. But the ability to stand back up and get back to the line and keep working on your goals and dreams and aspirations, that's what makes us so beautiful is our resilience, the perseverance to overcome. And that's my favorite part about humans.
Well, I know that there's a lot of people who should be succeeding but aren't. I mean, they like have, they're healthy. They have full use of all four of their limbs. They come from a moderately middle class background, but something keeps holding them back. It's like it's almost like they didn't have the ability to overcome obstacles, maybe because they didn't have any obstacles to overcome, and so the least little bit of challenge holds them back. And I was wondering what your thinking is around this.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting perspective. And sometimes when people don't have that adversity, they don't learn how to overcome it. So they move at a different type of pace and grow in a way that comes with, outgrowing adversity and really becoming a human. But I also believe everybody's capable. It's a narrative that you tell yourself. It's deciding to be happy, deciding to be positive, even in negative situations, deciding to move forward, deciding to gain momentum, not comparing yourself to others, but comparing yourself to yourself. I honestly believe that everybody's in competition with themselves, right? And so these individuals in which you speak who shouldn't have any excuses might not build their self momentum because they have a negative mindset and they just, don't have, the right perspective that they need to shift and to make it positive and to build that momentum and to have those goals and those expectations and to think well beyond, honestly, what direction they're heading. I mean, they're stagnant. Human beings really need to continue to move and continue to progress forward, or else we feel depressed. I mean, that's just built into our DNA. So we need to constantly feel like we're upgrading and getting better in some form or the other. No matter what it is, we need to be working on something and making progress. If we're not, if we're standing still, if we're trapped in a similar routine, that's when we start to lose it, and we kind of start regressing, right? So I feel like one of the biggest catalysts of being happy and having that emotion, spreading it to others, is choosing to be positive and working hard and hustling to progress. And if you're not doing that, then you're in your own way. I mean, there's no, you're your own excuse, and you're the problem that needs fixing.
Yeah, and then you have the other extreme, like Elon Musk, started SpaceX, Tesla, Boring Company, Neuralink. I mean, I like look at him and I'm like going, man, I'm like the biggest slacker ever. What am I doing in my life? Am I even worth anything? Uh,
Well, I gotta say that don't belittle yourself. Your project right now, once I heard about it, was so cool and so unique. And I honestly feel the coolest thing about humans is we're diverse. We're each a different individual piece of art. Like there's 7-8 billion of us, and we're all completely different. That's art at its truest form, and that's how I view humanity as being so beautiful. We're completely flawed, but you are creating something where you're encapsulating so many different individuals and stories, and you're putting it on a moon. I mean, dude, that is so freaking cool, right? Elon Musk, big fan of. And I often wondered if I was immortal, if I just didn't age or whatever, how many lifetimes it would take me to do what he's already done in one. So I share that perspective, not to compare somebody, but I really do look up, to him and what he has done and how he's progressed humanity. Every once in a while, we get these entrepreneurs who really speed us up. Tesla's another one who just kind of pushed the limit, and Steve Jobs, et cetera, that kind of evolved us in a way where we stop looking down at maybe our phones and we start looking up at the stars. And that's really kind of a cool thing to be a part of. And it's cool to, watch what he's doing in awe, because it's very impressive and very progressive.
Yeah, you made a statement about it's important for us as humans to feel like we're progressing. If we keep staying in the same place, we start getting depressed and falling back. And I've definitely seen this too. Like whenever you start a running schedule, if you could see like consistent improvements, that encourages you. But if at some point you start maxing out, you're like, oh, well, I guess it's just where I am, and you stop running, and that's that. But I was wondering if that also scales up to societies as well. Maybe by going to the moon and having some people developing habitats in space and Mars and onwards, even even though each of us individually probably won't be a part of that, but just knowing that we're part of a society that's growing in that way, I'm wondering how that does for us mentally as a society. If we're like, wow, I know I'm just like this, software support guy, but I'm part of this bigger thing that's going places, and so kind of creating meaning for oneself in that context.
Yeah, I mean, again, like each brush, like a stroke of a painting, is part of that painting, and without it, there wouldn't be that piece of art. So yes, we're an ant colony. I mean, we're individuals that work together to create awesome and incredible things. And be part of things like that sort of universal expansion to space is an honor, I'm sure, to be part of. But the cool thing is that it's motivating. I mean, it's inevitable. Like we need to either evolve in a synthetic way almost, or we need to evolve in a sense that we expand and colonize other planets to survive, or else we're going to be the next extinction phase, and that's inevitable. I mean, that's just scientific. So it's really cool because it gives me hope for the future of humanity and a humanity that I love. Again, very flawed, but I think we're evolving in the right ways, where we're learning and we're open and we're connected. I mean, just in our lifetime, we have now, everyone's connected, and that's super cool, and that's changed things. So I'm interested to see how far we go. But if we don't colonize Mars, if we don't colonize, maybe Titan, the moon off of, Saturn, if we don't colonize the moon, if we don't expand, then, we have all our investments in one basket. Like Warren Buffett says, don't invest all your eggs in one piece of stock. We're completely invested in Earth, who is only here because Jupiter is a gravitational pull that's, protecting us from asteroids, right? Like we're one day away from not existing. And so we need to diversify our species a little bit into different colonies and different planets, and we're on the front end of that. How cool is that? That we get to be a piece of that foundation that builds that. Like that's special. So like it's just a different perspective. You're still being a part of something incredible, but it's looking at it as like a blessing with appreciation, gratitude, positivity, rather than like I'm such a small piece of a big puzzle. It's dude, I'm a piece of something that us as humanity is is expanding the lifespan of our species. That is beautiful. And you see how those two sentences are completely different, but they're the same job. So oftenly it's just your perspective on how you perceive things, and to keep yourself in check, because you've got to realize, however you're projecting negativity around your peers, that's going to bring down the team. You're projecting positivity, you're a leader, you're increasing the morale and actually helping even more so than doing your specific job. You're helping other people do, good in a different way as well. So, never belittle yourself. I say that there's, apparently more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the planet. And so human beings, there's less human beings than there are stars in the universe. Therefore, how I see it is each human being is worth more than a star. And that's a crazy thought. Maybe not the sun, but the rest of them, that's an argument to be made. And that's how I look at humans, just for their raw beauty and what we do together and what we build together. That's what makes it so special.
Yeah, I definitely share your perspective on that. And I think all humans are really amazing in what they're capable of doing. And especially people with unique backgrounds have unique perspective and unique value as well. But as societies, I don't see that reflected in our societies. The way that, like for example, the people from Latin America that were coming into the U.S., kind of like the conditions in which they were housed and separation from children being separated from parents and things like that. I mean, definitely shows that that thought is not universal. And I was just wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, study the overview effect. I'm a hopeful for one of the first citizen astronauts who spaced humanity, and it's really interesting to kind of see that perspective shift could, bring us together. I mean, just seeing Earth from outer space for the first time, or having all the politicians stand on the moon. I think Carl Sagan was the one that said that would bring humanity so close together, because we'd realize how small the planet is just from a perspective shift, and we'd work together rather than work as individual nations. So I think it's progressive, but like, you just think in the last 30 years how fast we've evolved, and that's been partly because of technology, and it's not all been good, but it's also, socially, and it's, respect levels and the, the lack of racism, the lack of sexism. We're evolving in a way where we're letting love lead instead of being judgmental, and that's not going to take 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. I mean, it takes us a while to evolve. But what becomes socially unacceptable is when hatred goes from generation to generation. So I give us time. And I think we've definitely come leaps, and we've definitely evolved, and our minds are much bigger than what they were. We're crucifying people for saying that the earth wasn't the center of the universe, right? And burning them at the stake. So we've definitely changed in a short period of time. Think how fast we're expanding ourselves now. Like, think of how we're going to be in 100 years to where we were 100 years ago. Things are going rapid. So I'm really excited to see how we progress and how fast we progress. We have a few minutes. Do we have any more time?
Oh, absolutely. I have as much time as you want.
Oh, no way. I thought we were on a strict 15 minutes. Okay. So I want to, leave a little time at the end of the interview to talk about black holes, but keep going on any other questions you have.
I should ask you, what are your time constraints?
Oh, no, I'm good, man. This is such a cool project that you're doing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's got to be like one interview or two interviews a day for like so long. It's such a cool project you're doing. So I definitely have time. I thought there were 15-minute interview long, and that was all you got. So just definitely.
No, shortest one was like a minute, and longest one was 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Okay, I didn't know that. That's great. I didn't know that. Man, the minute one must have been weird. Yes.
Well, the thing is, I originally started this project as an anti-social distancing project. I've been working from home for the past 2 years before everybody else did. And
I trended it. You're like, I was doing this way before you guys.
Exactly. Like, really? I have to work from home? Wasn't I already? But, I would go for like a week or so without seeing another human being in person other than my family. So my plan was to interview people at coffee shops, at the mall, and what have you. Go up to them and say, "Hey, I'm doing this project. Can we talk?" Of course, now with COVID, going up to random people at coffee shops is probably ill-advised. Not that it's advised normally, anyway. And so I had to switch to online
That's
as a
so
way to do
funny.
it. So
I love that. That's so great. That's such a cool project. But yeah, I definitely have some time for sure.
um so you know, I guess first of all, when did you find out that we were sending people back to the moon in 2024?
I mean, I heard about it last year. I don't know how long it's been in the works, and I know things change rapidly and things get postponed, and political system obviously always has a big deal with that. And I was really discouraged when Barack Obama defunded the NASA system, but that opened up the ability to privatize it, and I think we're actually moving at a much faster pace. So it actually kind of worked, favorably. I don't know how it would work differently outside of politics. That being said, I think it's such a cool project. I mean, like we just are sending people to space commercially now. We're sending people to the space station with ease. So I'm really excited that we're aiming for the moon again because we just stopped caring. Like, I think we reverted a little bit. People thought like the flat Earth theory was like popular again, or this is I feel like we've devolved a little bit when it comes to space. I'm really excited to extend people's interest, and when it becomes commercial, we get to go to the moon. I mean, people are going to be wondering for that. I mean, and especially if there's like a colony out there, you can at least visit. I think that's going to really ignite the excitement for people once again about space, which we haven't had to that extent since the space race. When John F. Kennedy out of pride, I mean, we went to the moon as America. So I'm really excited to see humanity as a whole really look to the stars again. I think for the last maybe 20 years, we've been looking at our phones, and I'm hoping that will change and progress. I'm wishful, and maybe it's being too optimistic and not a realist here, because I watched The Social Dilemma, and I'm pretty afraid of these things. We're kind of partly cyborg already, but phones have really been our anchor, and I'm really looking forward to that expansion to the universe quite a bit.
Yeah, it's so funny. Talking about phones being kind of always with us and what have you. My dad had heard about this conspiracy theory on NPR about the vaccine containing microchips to track us, or something like that. And I'm like thinking, why bother? We already carry this every place, and it has communications and GPS and cameras. There's really we're already have the equipment on us to track us all the time. So
yeah, pretty much. It's like, what's the difference?
But about the flat Earth thing, I saw this diagram of the solar system, and it has around Mercury, around Venus, around Mars, around Jupiter, and then it has like a flat Earth, and underneath it says awkward. I thought. But it's been so long since we've been to the moon. Do you have any idea on the last time we had people on the moon?
I'm going to guess here. I feel like this is something I should know. It was in the 70s, right?
1972.
1972. I'd have guessed 71. So it's been a while, right? Like, that's crazy. That's been that long.
It's so long ago that people are like, well, we must not have gone, because if we went and could do it, why aren't we doing it now?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just so expensive, and it's hard to justify unless there was minerals there. When you think of a GDP of a country, it's like, why spend that much money? It was almost like a flex during the Cold War. It was like we're the furthest in space, but then once that kind of died out, that war that really didn't never happen. How do you monetize this? And unfortunately, that's a lot of the ways in which humanity progresses is through that capitalistic, that greed, and it is what it is. I mean, we've created that sense of power. But as long as that greed is getting us to a progressive point of evolving as a species, it's hard not to be excited about. It's hard not to be excited about going back. But the talks about figuring out how to go to Mars, which is a much longer journey, could be in a lifetime too. I mean, I know that I think your eyes explode or something for being in space that long. I'm pretty sure that your corneas would explode. I mean, that's what I heard. We haven't figured out how to do that to get to Mars, from my understanding. But I think at the right time, the way we're progressing, the way that things are going right now, and how fast they're going. I mean, I didn't know who Elon Musk was in 2000. 2010 even. Right? Think of what he's done in the last 10 years. Think of his company and how they've changed things. Like, think of what will be in the next 40 years. So it'll be interesting, man. The moon might be just your bus stop to Mars. Like, that would be kind of a cool, in your lifetime, you might not only go to the moon but Mars. And that way of thinking sounds unrealistic, but if we progress at the pace we're going at, or even accelerate that, it could be pretty much everybody's reality, and that would be very cool.
Yeah, it is amazing to think of. I mean, like whenever the internet was developing in the 1990s, it is amazing to think of the transformation from like 1990 to 2000. In 1990, you could talk to an average person and try to explain to them email and online shopping. They have no clue what you're talking about. Because Netscape didn't come out until like 94, and Amazon didn't get started until 94 actually. But by 2000, like everybody pretty much knew what email was, knew what online shopping was, and what have you. I feel like the 2020s are shaping up to be as transformative in aerospace as the 1990s were to the internet. I think in 2030, there are going to be things that people do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that we think are just crazy right now. What do you think?
I think technology breeds more technology. So the more technology we have, the faster, the more rapid it grows and evolves. And human beings can't keep up with that. So it's partially scary. Elon Musk is very obviously much more intelligent than I, and he's very fearful of AI. And I have this weird theory that he's doing a lot of things out of that fear. He's made Solar City, he's made Tesla, he's essentially made all these very, very successful companies based on inhabiting and colonizing, Mars. But it's almost like an escape plan for him. It's like it's his go bag, because technology is moving so rapidly. And when does it become something that is out of our control? When is it controlling us? And arguably, right now, through social media and for the algorithms that are controlling what kind of facts that we're given, feed into the political separation of the United States at least, but also all over the world. I mean, Facebook and Instagram and these technologies has had a definite negative effect, but they've had a huge positive effect too. They brought us together, and they've to your point, the tech of the 90s to 2000 was so progressive. It's speeding up even faster. Like, that was the start of it. That's like the coolest part. Like, you remember what a pager was? Both their siblings had a pager in middle school, right? And I didn't get one because by the time I got to middle school, they were obsolete. They were completely done. And I was all ticked off that I didn't get to have a pager because I thought it was cool because I was like young. But they're obsolete because technology grows fast. And the more technology you have, the faster it evolves and the faster it grows. So we have so much technology and so many trained professionals to use it now, where technology, things are pretty much automated. And that makes it very easy to have out of this world ideas and make them come to our realities. So I feel like there'll be more entrepreneurs, there'll be more, idealists that will create some incredible opportunities that will push humanity in the right direction in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, in the next, the 40-year mark. If I could like look in the future and just see where we're going to be in like 2060, I think everything's either going to accelerate at the fastest pace or regress at the fastest pace. So we're going to go one way or the other. I think in the next 40 years, I think that it's going to be a tell-all, because, usually you'd be like, oh, that telescope, right? That was out, I think it was 2016. No, what's it called again? Yeah. NASA telescope.
Which one? I know about the Hubble, but that was like back in like 1990.
But I think they have like a 2016 one that was like way more significant. You can see way deeper into the universe, and that's why we're getting so, from my understanding, it seems factual there. But like that took like 20 years to build. That take us like 4 years to build now, right? Like, to your point, I think that things are going to just happen so fast now, and it's going to be like, dude, we're going to the moon in 2024, and then we'll be like, we're going to Mars in like 2031, and like, just citizens can go to Mars if they have enough money, or they go through programs like Space for Humanity. by like 2050, it's going to be interesting to see how space travel becomes commercial. And that's going to really give an opportunity for humans to start dreaming at that level, to get to space and to build out space. And there's opportunities even in the asteroid belt. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there. We just don't have the technology yet, but we're about to. And that's cool.
And you mentioned about the algorithm kind of controls what we see in the news and all of that. And I've kind of run into some of that in this project as well. People who are interested in space, they know that we're going to space, to the moon in 2024. It's on their news feed, all the events that are happening, and they imagine everybody else is seeing what they're seeing. But the most of the people that I've talked to had no clue we were going to the moon in 2024. And in fact, I even had one person say, "Why is NASA keeping it a secret?" So he doesn't get any space news on his thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's who I follow and it's my interest. So I like basketball, I like space, I like positive information, and so I don't follow, say, on Instagram, I don't follow negative accounts. I don't follow things that I don't think are progressing me as a character. And so there's some funny stuff, some entertainment stuff, but it's like space, basketball, and motivational positivity, like entrepreneurial, different things. So I see memes. So this algorithm is essentially feeding me facts on my interest, and that's all I'm getting. And so it's like, I don't know about pop culture very much. Like I don't know what's going on or who divorced who, because that's not the news that I'm getting fed, because the algorithm has essentially filtered my interest directly to me. But back to the flat earth theorists, I mean, they're getting fed information, and only information that makes them certain that they're right, because that's their interest. And it's like, so take the political parties, like the Democrats, Republicans, the problem with the two-party system is that they're both getting essentially facts about like all the pros with none of the cons about their party system, and all the cons of the other party system. And that's only information that they're consuming. So they think anybody that's not in agreement with them is a complete idiot, because they have all these facts, right? But they're missing half the puzzle. They're missing the other flip of the coin, where the other party's getting all the facts and all the positives about their political party. It's like watching CNN versus Fox. It's like very one-sided. It's very biased opinions, but you're still getting there's facts mixed in with that fake news. So it makes it all seem real. And so that's setting a huge void between our country. That's sending a lot of voids between a lot of people in a lot of different countries. It's not a singular problem with America. It's a international problem. It's a problem with humanity, where we've evolved technology so fast, where we've taken millions of years to evolve to this point. Technology's taken most of 60 years to evolve way beyond where we've evolved. And it's evolving even at a faster rate. So how can we keep up? And when does it just start controlling us and our thoughts? Because you're creating algorithms that are self-growing and self-learning, right? And we've already become completely dependent on it. Like, I don't go to outlets anymore. COVID definitely factored this in. I just shop on Amazon. You've been doing it for years before everybody else. You've been isolated, right? Everything's automated. You can DoorDash your food. Everything's just delivered to you. You have an Alexa. You need a question answered, you ask Siri. You ask Alexa. You have your TV. It's recommending you the type of shows they know that you'll really enjoy. So it's like, that's gotten a little out of control. And so we're our DNA, our level of interest is being calculated, and so everything's essentially personalized exactly to us. So we're getting the information that we want to hear because we're interested in that information. What we're losing out of this is the ability to hear others, the ability to have empathy, the ability to be able to conceive things from other people's perspectives, the ability to understand the other side of the facts. It's just everything's one-sided. We're right and everyone else is stupid if they disagree with us. What happens when everybody feels that way and they're getting different facts? Then we start to separate ourselves. Then we start to fight. And that's scary. And that's what's happened. And statistically, anxiety, depression, suicide rates have skyrocketed over the last 20 years. Like in America, all over the world. And that's something that I've gone out as a motivational speaker to try to fight against. I'm one person. And it's back to that spectrum. I'm a part of fighting against that because I believe in humanity and believe in the good in us, but I can't do it alone. Right? Like there's not one person. Elon Musk didn't by himself create all these companies. He had these ideas and he made them into reality. And then there was a ton of people that worked on it and built it out, right? So it's going to take humanity to say enough is enough, or figure out a way to, have restrictions on AI, or figure out a way to make this negative, this weakness positive. And if there's any way that we can figure out, maybe restrictions to, social media or other news outlets. But it is scary. It is very scary. What could happen to humanity is we could start to separate ourselves even more, rather than the overview effect coming together, because we have a perspective of we're all in this together. We could have kind of fighting because of different ideals, and that would be a huge regression step happening for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Robert Zubrin, the head of the Mars Society, he likes to talk about that all the problems in the 1900s, all the big major conflicts were a result of bad ideas. And specifically one particular bad idea, that there's a limited number of resources, and either in order for me to get mine, I have to take it away from somebody else. I had to keep somebody else from getting stuff. And he likes to talk about how this is really a wrong-headed idea, because there's really no thing as natural resources. Even land isn't really a resource until you invent agriculture and figure out how to grow crops on it. Oil was, basically a poison for farmland, but whenever we learn to refine it and create the combustion engine, it became a resource. And similarly, there's no such thing as natural resources, or just raw materials, which the human ingenuity is able to transform into resources. So every brain potentially offers new ways to turn raw materials into more and more useful resources. And so population actually isn't a negative. It could be a positive if you are kind of directing those people towards how to develop more and more resources from the raw materials we have. Now, as you look at the Earth from the moon, you see Earth as really small, fragile, finite. Um, how do we get people to walk away from that experience with the idea that we're in it together, versus, the Earth is really finite, and it's even more essential that, I save it for my people or my team?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great perspective. I think that the biggest motivators that you could, ever project on anyone is love, and followed by fear. And so that's some people just react to different things. No one person is the same. So you're going to have subcategories of people that are motivated in different ways. And the hardest part is for people to think forward and not think like, hey, this is a problem that needs to be solved, say global warming. Right? We're taking coal out of the ground, taking carbon dioxide that's been fossilized from ancient trees and dinosaurs, and then we're projecting that into the atmosphere. And that's, essentially making us like mercury. And there's people that are going to tell themselves that that's not a real thing. There's people that are going to tell themselves that we can't do anything about it. If we're not doing it, China will, some other country will, etc. And then there's people that are really fighting the fight. Like, dude, I'm a forward thinker. I'm thinking macro, not micro. I'm not thinking of my lifetime. I'm thinking of the future of humanity. So you have just subcategories of how different people think. So I think it's going to take not just a singular motivation, but it's going to take different ways to motivate different people to the same common goal. Right? And I think for me, if I'm going to start with fear and then move to love, I mean, love is easy for me because it's part in me. Like, I just have a newborn son, he's 3 months old. I want him and his children and his children's children to just have like the greatest lives, and like to just, obviously it's just pure love, right? And I love humanity. Like, to your point, you went for weeks of not seeing people at a time. I'm the opposite. I was on 150 to 170 flights a year as a motivational speaker, and seeing 2,000 to 3,000 new people every day, and meeting them and inspiring them and having one-on-one conversations, and giving them perspectives and wisdom and advice. So like I was the opposite. I was seeing like too many people, on a yearly basis, because I wanted that reach. I really wanted to affect and impact humanity. So I would say with love, it's easy because it's, if people are minded in that way, or they not have that selfish, motivation of, it's not going to matter in my lifetime. So, screw it. Like if you can take that away, then, it's like, dude, people are like really affected by it. And I think traveling has acquired that perspective for me personally, because I've traveled all over the world, where I've met different cultures and met different people and met different struggles and different situations. And that has provided me the power of empathy. And that empathy of love makes me not just, care about me and my household, but care about humanity as a whole. But then there's the fear tactic. And for me, the fear tactic is, once again, starting with Jupiter, like humanity's not going to last. Like this could happen in your lifetime. It could be a solar flare. You're dead. Everybody's gone. In humanity, no one knew anything. Elvis Presley never existed. But it's gone, right? It could be an asteroid. And that wouldn't be the first time. I mean, it happened to the dinosaurs. They weren't prepared for that. Who knows how long they roamed the earth before they got hit by something they didn't prepare for. And so that's just dumb luck. That Jupiter is just sitting there and really protecting us from that asteroid belt, from gravitational pull. But then there's also, like being from California, we have Yellowstone, which is a sleeping volcano that's overdue to explode that would take out North America and spread ash all over the entirety of the world. Solar energy would be done. Farmland would be done. I mean, a good portion of humanity would be extinct. So Yellowstone's set to be off. Just time. Like, I'm not like saying like the fear of I got to get mine again, because there's limited resources. Even oil, to your point, was poisoning farms, and we've used it. Now we've converted to wind energy and just natural energies, which is more expensive. But between being extinct and not having those resources, we're going to create that. That's going to be universal. We have that technology. So as technology expands, we'll have more resources, or at least make better with the resources that we have. But I think that fear of, there's not a lot of time for us. This is going to matter to you and the people you love and your children and your children's children. It's going to happen fast. And that fear tactic isn't my way to go. It isn't my style, but that is a way to reach large masses of human beings to make massive changes. I think change is hard. I think change is really hard to do, and you have to have proper motivation, but not for a day or a conversation. It needs to be a constant conversation that, has action behind it. And putting people into the ground and trying to figure out how to buy missile silos so they'll survive the apocalypse. But like, how can we make change so we don't have to do that? How can we stand in front of that bullet as humanity and work as one for the common good of everybody? And that's a perspective that needs several different pods of motivation for the different segmented types of personalities and people out there. Because again, no one person's the same.
That's a very good point. And as you were talking about seeing thousands of people a day and taking hundreds of flights a year, I got to think, wow, this COVID thing's really changed your life. When was the last time you gave a talk?
I've given it several last week, just virtually though. It's so weird through a computer. It doesn't have, like, I'm 6'11". Like, I'm a big guy. Like, I have one arm flopping around. I look like red hair. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage being impactful through a computer and having to depend on technology to reach people. I think that physical presence and that energy of having so many bodies in a room, really makes a little bit different kind of difference. So it's definitely been a challenge, but it hasn't been pointless by means. It's still been very impactful. And I spoke to the Clemson football team before their season. They were pretty down. They didn't know if they were going to have a season because of COVID. They're the number one team in the country, et cetera. And they have the two top players in the country. And I had an opportunity to be, on a video conference with their team to motivate them and elevate them, worrying about what's in your control as opposed to stressing and letting things out of your control impact you in negative ways. So to give you that positive mindset, becoming an unshakable optimist. So that was kind of my messaging to them. But it has changed my life for sure. As it's changed everybody's, but I haven't let it change me for the negative. Like, I've lost 27 pounds during this epidemic. Because I was on the road eating bad, so I'm eating healthy. I'm working out. I have a newborn son. I get to spend a lot of time with him. Otherwise, I'd be traveling. My wife, I get to spend a lot of time with her. You're working on another film project. I have my camera crew here. I want to take a UFC fight, an MMA fight. I'm learning from zero to scratch, and we're filming a pilot for a TV show we're going to pitch and try to sell. So I just definitely adapted. Again, it's like, okay, this is the reality. These are the new problems. How do we overcome them, and how do we shift so we're still making progression? We're still moving forward. We're not sitting there saying, "Oh, this sucks. Why me?" It's, both my parents have passed away. Like, I've not had an easy life, like a broken household with one kid growing up, like hardly could pass a class until middle school. Like, I had diagnosed with ADHD, dyslexia, and speech deficiency, but like not letting those things, those adversities, kind of prevent you from still excelling. That's the ability to adapt. That's the ability to make quick and total absolute shifts. So you got to be flexible. As long as you have goals and you have expectations and you're working hard every day to get there, you might have to press things on pause because the things out of your control. COVID was completely out of my control. So why am I going to let it ruin my everyday? Why am I gonna have that on me? Like, well, I don't want to bear that. I don't want to put that on my back. I don't want to have that negativity, right? So I want to make the best of every day that I'm not traveling. I'm not going and impacting people. I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to sidestep and I'm going to recreate myself. And that's what I've done this year. And it's really helped and really worked out.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Obstacles are like rocks in a river. You just flow around them and keep going.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's a beautiful, it's really just an enhanced attribute that everybody has. It's just the muscle, the ability to flex that muscle, the ability to work and practice on kind of having a shifting mentality. There's a problem, find a solution. There's a problem, find a solution. There's a problem, find a solution, because you're going to have problems. There's no human being that's not going to have some sort of level of adversity. We're all going to have negative feelings. We're all going to have negative mindsets. So how do you get yourself out of it? How do you train yourself where it doesn't stop your momentum and stop you in your tracks? And so that's something that I haven't created. I mean, I've had an adverse life, but also like listened and learned and traveled the world and heard so many different people's perspectives. And that's helped me. I just like a sponge of knowledge and wisdom where I just soak up their knowledge and use it in my own life, and soak up their knowledge and use it in my own life. I also share that knowledge to hundreds of thousands of people a year that really need to hear it too, that don't have the ability to travel like me. So it's definitely been a blessing. I see COVID as a complete blessing. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
This is the perfect example of how I look at COVID-19. Bill Gates has been saying it for years. We're not ready for an epidemic like this. We're not prepared. We're not prepared. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Right? COVID-19 has shaken humanity nationally, internationally, the whole world. It's united us against a common cause. Now, people can't agree with how to react to it, but we all have a similar problem, which is cool because that should be a uniting thing. Secondly, if COVID had the same spreadability, it's a successful disease. It spreads, it gets you sick, doesn't kill the host, so the host could spread it to more people. Right? As far as diseases go, it's a very successful one because you don't even know you have it. Sometimes you're asymptomatic. People have different symptoms. It's hard to tell who has it. It's hard to test for it. It's very hidden, and it spreads so simply and so easily. For all we knew, like 20 people had it in December of last year. By March, the whole world was shut down. That's crazy. But imagine if it had long-term effects that were more fatal. So it spread the way it spread, but it killed off humanity in a way that like SARS, right? SARS killed people too fast, so it wasn't as effective as a disease because it was too powerful. This was just under that bar. But imagine a disease that spread like COVID, it was more lethal. What percentage of humanity it would wipe out? And we were not prepared for that disease. COVID is our dry run test that has now prepared us or given us the ability to shift our thoughts as a world to better prepare for another way we could become extinct. We're going to be prepared for it. We know COVID shook the world, and it was a little bit weaker than it needed to be to like wipe out humanity, right? But we're going to have some implementations in place that if this happens, maybe we can lock it down so it doesn't spread like it does. Or maybe the CDC or the WHO will get more funding. Whatever it is, we at least had a dry run, and we failed as a whole, as a unit, as the world, we failed. Taiwan didn't fail, New Zealand didn't fail, so different countries handled it, Iceland obviously, but as a world, we totally failed. Maybe if it was a more powerful disease, maybe this COVID-19 was a blessing in disguise and saved humanity.
Yeah, maybe
perspective, right? Like I just need to get into a positive thing.
I hope so. It's definitely shown some of the weak points, and I think a lot of people who would have never considered wearing masks before feel quite comfortable going out wearing masks, which is a basic hygienic type thing. I think a lot of people are a lot more sensitive about, are they in a closed space with other people, and are they breathing the air that they're breathing out and things like that. I just worry though, because um, I mean, a lot of people look at the number of deaths from COVID, and they're sort of like in that lukewarm area where it's significant but yet not catastrophic, and a lot of it's because of the things that we put in place. Um, and then other people are those same people are also looking at kind of like the impact it's had on society, and the control of government over people and the economy and things like that. Uh, I mean, I think if you want to help with fire prevention, there's nothing like, a burned down building. The fire that didn't quite happen doesn't really convince you about the need for fire prevention. That's kind of my
Yeah.
concern.
Maybe fire insurance, maybe you have more extinguishers, maybe like Titanic happened. And if you've ever been on a cruise ship, like the first day before you do anything, everybody learns exactly how to, where to go to the boats. They have that dry run. Like it's the first thing when the boats take off the docks. You have a mandatory, everybody on the boat has to figure out if this thing's sinking, where you're going, how many people are getting on a boat, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody knows before that iceberg hits, right? So like using that as an analogy, Titanic was such a devastating thing because the first boats, like the first 40% of the boats, left the cruise ship with like 20% occupancy. So there were so many people stranded without lifeboats, and that's why it was such a significant loss, because people didn't know how to react. They just reacted out of fear. Is going right back to, I need mine, and there's only a finite amount of resources, and so I have to take it away from somebody else. And that fear is what made that such a historic devastation and loss, when really everyone had the ability to go on a lifeboat. So it's creating those lifeboats and giving us the ability to understand how to manage and shut things down so a virus doesn't spread as quick as it does. We can at least take it serious. Because if this were more lethal, we were not prepared. People were resistant to this. People were resistant to even thinking it was real news or a real virus. I mean, the head of the CDC went on Good Morning America and belittled it nationally, which was crazy. And he's no longer with the CDC, but he said that it was like a flu. He didn't realize the impact that it truly had on certain types of people. So I just have to look at it as like, it's definitely set back the world in a sense. But it's it's that adversity that's allowed us to adapt, and that adaptation is what's going to continue to allow us to grow and shift when we need to, in order to not only survive, but in order to thrive, and in order to continue to move forward and progress. So we had, if nothing else, we had mankind. It wasn't aliens coming in attacking us. I mean, which would instantly unite humanity, right? It was a virus, and that instantly, I want to say it's a stretch to say it united humanity, but it gave us a common goal. It gave us a common issue that everybody in this world had to deal with, and that's pretty powerful, because we needed that sense of unity. We needed that sense of learning. We failed. We absolutely failed the test, but this test wasn't. The stakes weren't that high. I mean, they were. I'm not going to belittle how many people died from COVID, but the stakes weren't like, percentile of mankind, respectively. It wasn't that high. It wasn't going to wipe out humanity. If a disease that had the ability to do that and spread like COVID ever were to exist, at least we took a quiz and failed. So we know how to prepare for the test. And that's just the rational way and a positive way, I guess, to look at it. It's at least we're kind of adapting in the right direction to prepare ourselves for something that could really threaten humanity.
Yeah, I hope you're right. There's definitely a lot of learnings to be had with this. Kind of returning back to space just a little bit, and thinking about how people don't have a lot of people don't have an interest in space, and I keep thinking like sports in space would be a way to kind of invigorate certain populations' interest. And getting a basketball team on the moon, you got to
So
send like
cool.
10 players and what have you. But the MMA thing, you only need like 2 participants, and you talk about.
Same.
I mean, you don't have to worry about how the ball bounces different. You just have to worry about how your opponent bounces different, and that's actually a good thing.
Dude, that is a brilliant idea. Like, who would have watched that? Space fighting? That
Yeah,
is
everybody will watch it. You might need to have to send up 2 capsules because they probably wouldn't sit next to each other afterwards, but that's a different story.
well, it's weird that the most unusual thing about fighting that I've learned is the quantity of respect people have for each other. It's so nice. Like I played football, I played basketball and baseball, and people always, competitively talk about trash. And you see that in some of the great fighters, but you're already kicking yourself, you kicking each other's butt every day. So why be mean to each other on top of that? That's the mentality. You walk into a gym and like a fight team becomes like family instantly. They're so nice, so inviting, so calm. So you're already gonna punch you in the face. So why be mean to you too? So it's a weird concept, but some of the nicest humans I've ever met are fighters. Very, very surprising to me. But yeah, I honestly love the idea of taking ice to space through the power of sports and that interest. That would be really, really cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, you should fly a couple fighters there. Or you could like make like moon laser tag, right? Like everyone gets spacesuits and bounce around and like chat. Like any of that would be so unusual and so cool. And so just the level of entertainment. I think you kind of need to bring entertainment to the moon, to get people to have that level of interest. That's a great idea.
So you mentioned you hope to go to space with Space for Humanity. How far did you want to go? Just like to orbit or to the moon for a couple of weeks, or would you consider like immigrating to Mars?
Um, Immigrating to Mars would be a little hard because of my family. Otherwise, it would be an honor to be able to go. But I would definitely go to the moon if that was an option. I think that the first batch, I think the goal was really just to send people to have the overview effect. So I think you're just getting in orbit, or you're in orbit, but you're getting out into space, out of atmosphere, to have that overview effect and see Earth from space. There's never been a disabled person in space. Not one. And there's, I don't, to my knowledge, there's never been a human being that's been to every continent in the world. I mean, I've been to all 50 US states too, and then also space. I don't think anyone's done that. So that would be pretty cool, especially with my last name, which is Atlas. I think it's fitting. I love to travel, and it's become my final frontier. So, there's a selfish pride thing of like, I definitely want to go to space because I've checked all the boxes and I've been like, I've done it all. Like that's crazy to be able to say I've done that. In honor of my parents who passed away before their time, that I figured out a way to, be able to travel and impact humanity in the same time, be able to collect that kind of perspective and experience of wisdom from so many different continents and so many different cultures. But yeah, space would be so humbling to be able to go up there. But also, I think it would be, really good for the disabled population. I mean, I'd come back and I'd speak to the UN and I'd, work with Special Olympics, et cetera. Just of like, dude, like, shoot for the moon. Don't use your disability is really only a disability if you mentally like tell yourself that like basketball is definitely a two-handed sport. I wouldn't change the game. And there's been another player that walked on the floor since I played. So there's been a door that's been open. It's like, well, why not? You don't let that kind of disability hold you back from going in and accomplishing your goals or dreams. I mean, I didn't choose this. I just never had it. And that sucked, man, for a long time until I shifted my perspective and made my greatest weakness my greatest strength. So that's the beauty of adapting again. So I think that it'll just give me a higher platform to come back to Earth and inspire people. Not only, that they are good enough and they are, just have that level of self-love. And, you have perfect imperfections, but if you can accept them, the world can accept them, and then you're not, restrained by your own, narrative of what you can and cannot do. You can literally do anything. But secondly, just to help promote looking to the stars. And again, stop everyone's looking down at their phones, but we can look up again. We haven't done that as a whole for quite some time. And I think that is one of the negative effects that technology has brought us, is that we have become very micro and macro once again. And now become macro again. That's the way my brain works. I want to look to the stars. I want to progress in that way. I think it's the best for humanity. I think it's inevitable for our existence and our survival and our expansion. So that's to be again a small thread, a small part of that. A voice to come back to Earth and get people excited about it. Because, like you said, people didn't even know that we're going back to the moon in 2024. That's wild. So, like, to get people talking and get people interested and get people to think, like, dude, if you can do it, then why can't I? I mean, you're a one-armed guy with a broken family who came from no money, and then you went to space. I mean, you can even pass a grade till like 6th, 7th grade, right? So it's not that like I'm too stupid or I'm incapable or my family is not rich. All that excuses and those narratives people tell themselves, but to lead it, and that's the shift of perspective. And then you have masses dreaming and believing in themselves that they can go to space and they can make a difference. And that's when you see change. See, I'm not a leader. I'm not a factory to create leaders. That's what we need. There's a lack of them, and we need more of them to help progress and mold humanity to maximize their potential. And so I know that's like a lot I threw at you, but like that's when I'm like, I go to space, it's not like the experience selfishly, 100%. Go to the moon, I'd even take my fight on the moon. That'd be so cool. I'll play basketball on the moon, do anything on the moon. That would be phenomenal. But just to go to space and then the impact I can have when I come back down to Earth, that's pretty significant. And that would be such an honor and a blessing and an impactful lifestyle that I'm drawn to.
That is awesome. And you mentioned you wanted to talk about something else. I think black holes, you said.
Yes. So I got to go on a little rant here if we're wrapping it up. So I have a theory, and I've never publicly got to state this theory, and no one has ever reacted positively to it because I just don't think they're big enough thinkers. So this one's for you, my man. This one, I want to see your reaction because you're interested in space, right? I tell my wife, she's like, shut up, Kevin. So my theory, I have this theory of black holes for a long time, and it's evolved quite a bit. So I call it the Atlas theory. So I know that people have started to think about the first part of this theory, but the second part's a little bit of a stretch. So black holes are one of the most mysterious things in the universe, correct? Like we don't fully know how the human brain works, but black holes are so significant and so crazy out in the universe. So essentially, my belief with black holes is that, going to Einstein's theory of matter can't be created nor destroyed. Well, what's the birth of a black hole? It's a collapse of a star. So you have all that energy from a star, and then you have that boom, and then it, regresses to a black hole. Well, where's that energy go from that star? And yeah, a bunch of it probably launches out to space, but a lot of it's probably sucked into that black hole. That black hole literally eats stars. So what does that stardust create inside a black hole? And I think it's another universe. I think it's a mini universe where there's little mini stars. Hold on, man. Just listen, hear me out completely. So there's mini stars within the black hole. So every little black hole in our giant universe is essentially a mini universe. And all the energy is soaked into those black stars are stars, and they become galaxies because of gravity, right? But let me ask you something. Our universe is constantly expanding. What also constantly expands? Black holes. Gravity. Here's an anomaly, right? Galaxies are separating when they should all be coming back together. They have now proven that galaxies are getting further apart, but because of gravity, they should be all coming together. Why? Because whatever gravitational pull is around a black hole that bends light, right? That gravity's so thick that it actually distorts light. It's when two universes, the physics behind it, no one really understands, and I can't concede it. I think that the gravitational pull when two universes collide is what creates the pull of galaxies. So like inside that black hole, the galaxies are getting further away and it's constantly expanding, right? Because the gravity between those two universes, the black hole and the universe, are expanding. So what is our universe but a giant black hole?
I have a book for you.
Yes, but that's not the theory. But like
okay.
A book that has that theory in it.
Well, it's similar. The idea is that black holes create other universes that have similar properties to our own, And since black holes are only created in universes that have like stars, there is a tendency for universes to create stars. Like there's more universes that create stars than not stars. But anyway, it's called The Life of the Cosmos
The Life of the Cosmos.
by Lee Smolin, and it kind of talks about this idea of universes begetting other universes through black holes. So I haven't read the book, but I bought it. Buying books is a lot easier than reading them.
I have so many books. I have a whole library. I've read like one shelf of like 10 shelves of books that I've bought because I want to read. But so that idea I conceived in my mind as an originated idea, but I knew somebody else must have thought of that idea. So that wasn't my actual theory, because I don't even know what the name of that theory is, but there's a book written about something similar to it, right? So I just assumed that somebody would have this theory. My theory, the Atlas theory, actually is a little bit, it's an expansion if that theory is actually proven to be right. Therefore, what is our universe like, even the Big Bang, then a collapsed star that's constantly expanding in that gravitational pull between our black hole, which is our universe, and a much bigger universe beyond it is what's taking the gravity of the galaxies and spreading us, right? And our universe is constantly expanding, and we have no reason why. Now there's a rational reason why. But within this theory, if I say I was Elon Musk or whatever, right? If I could figure out a way, a man-powered way to collapse a star prematurely. So if I get not the sun, right, but like just the star somewhere, if I travel to a star and I could collapse it in supernova star, and then it collapsed into a black hole, I would, by definition and scientific theory, become God of that universe.
Maybe
you kind of created a universe, right? I mean, so.
But I mean, the farmer puts the seed in the ground, but you can't really control how the plant grows.
No, you can't control it. You just ignited it. So like if you ignited the Big Bang, does that make you God of the universe, or are you then there's actual God, right? So there's two different things there. But if you prematurely collapse a star, wouldn't by definition you become God of that universe because you created that universe?
Yeah, but I guess there's a difference between being the creator versus being all powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's two different terms of God. That's how you define God now. I believe in actual God, but by definition, could you technically become a God by creating a universe out of supernovaing a star and manufacturing? So,
well, we just have to get out there and find out.
I'm just saying, if somebody digs this interview up, out of the moon someday, are they gonna is mankind, is it gonna be like a time capsule, or is it just gonna be there for like somebody to find like future civilization? Or
well, so I put them on my website, countdowntothemoon.org, so they'll be out there as long as YouTube keeps hosting stuff for free. Yay.
Awesome.
And then I'm taking all the ones I'm recording up through probably the end of December at this point and putting them on a micro SD card. It'll go on Astrobotics moon lander that will be going next summer. So it should be sitting out there. Now, realistically though, between the heat and the cold and the radiation, it's going to take some amazing forensic kind of technology, which I think future people might have to be able to reconstruct those bits on that micro SD card. So, but what would be really cool is if we actually do go to the moon in 2024 and the astronauts bring like a micro SD card that's properly shielded and put that on the moon as part of their trip. Now that's like my, kind of
mind-blowing, right?
Mind-blowing dream, right?
It'd be so cool.
But the thing is, our knowledge of the universe all comes from like one itsy bitsy part of the universe. I mean, can you imagine you're in this huge mansion and you're with a group of people and all you've ever seen is one room, and you could look out the doorway and you could look out the window and you could hear things, and you kind of, you have some thoughts on what the house looks like, but I guarantee you that whatever you're thinking and whatever there's going to be things that will blow your mind the moment you take a step out into that hallway, or the moment you know.
100%. That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. That's so cool. I'm gonna use that one. I love that.
But
Even past that mansion, I mean, you have a whole world beyond it that you can't even conceive because you've only seen that room. And that's
oh yeah, I know you're thinking everything's walls, and then you go outside, there's like these
yeah.
tree-looking things.
What,
What's that?
what the heck? Yeah. That's a great, if Earth is that room, or even your country is that room, and Earth is that mansion, and then you have, world beyond that. It's like you can't even see what's out there. But that's so beautiful. Like that's so cool. It's just so much creation. Even existence in itself is just a miracle. So it's just cool that things exist, we exist, and we have the opportunity to live, which is a phenomenal thing. But yeah, I love that analogy. That's great.
Now, Elon is a very big theorist around the idea we're all living in a simulation. Like, if you
Yeah.
just look at our current computing technology and our ability to kind of have these immersive experiences, and you keep imagining they keep getting better and better and better, um, at some point in the future, you will be able to have such an immersive experience that you won't be able to tell the difference between being out of that experience versus being in that experience.
100%. Yeah.
Now, the idea of us being before um, that kind of development is probably less than there should be more time after that development than before. And so theoretically, I mean, how would you test the idea? I mean, people who die, they're just taking off their helmets, right? And they're going to go back and, maybe enter the game at some other point. And, there's like so many things that it would explain. It's like,
Yeah.
how did you know that? Where'd you come from? How come I have these flashbacks? These types of things. So,
Yeah. Rick and Morty, that TV show is brilliant. The creators of it, I mean, they take 2 years to go out with the freaking season, but I don't know if you've ever watched it. And they do that in an episode. I mean, it's a cartoon, but it's like a cartoon for geniuses. Like it's insane. Like some people don't like it because it makes you think too much. But they have that episode where they're literally at an arcade, and you put on this, helmet, and it gives you kind of clip like a montage of living the entirety of your life and how you live it. And then when you die, like you live a whole lifespan within the period of putting the helmet on, that you forget about your existence. And then you take the helmet off and you get like a certain score of like how you lived your life. And that's just like an arcade game that you can play. And so like, it's kind of taking that similar concept. And let me say this, it's kind of scary that like what I would deem as the world's most intelligent man or creative man clearly thinks we're all in a simulation. Like that's kind of wild. But I mean, he's figured something out. Maybe he hacked the Matrix. But it's a really good, it's an interesting perspective, and one that, it's just a different type of belief. It's a different, and how can you be wrong? I mean, you can't know. You can just believe in anything you want to, but it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But even to be within a world, we're so close to that. VR has progressed, technology has progressed, video games have progressed since the 90s. So crazy how like realistic they are. And so like Ready Player One, when does it become something that it's an escape from reality to an extent where everybody's doing it? And then beyond that, and then it's like a simulation that you don't even know the difference between reality, kind of like Avatar, even being able to have, an avatar instead of playing the character you're going to. You can potentially in this way have your conscious uploaded, which would be insane. So there's so many different concepts of technology going in that direction, and I think that it probably will. Like, who knows? I think
and you could put on this headset and be like the squirrel, and your challenge is to get from this one neighborhood to this other neighborhood, and so often, which would explain squirrels' behaviors about taking these crazy dashes across the road. They're like, oh, they're just going to start over, if they get ran over.
yeah, absolutely right. Interesting game for sure. Man, that would be wild. I guess you could play out the perspectives of all the known living creatures on Earth and just a day in the life of a squirrel.
Yeah, and the time scale, you could be like, I'm going to be a mountain for a million years. What's that like?
Yeah, right. Or like I'm gonna play like the real time life of a fly, like live like a 24-hour period or whatever they live, and just kind of see how that goes. Yeah, dude, it'll be interesting to see people kind of escape realities, because we definitely have the technology progressing in that direction. But it's crazy, from my understanding, Elon already believes believes kind of the Matrix, right? Like he believes, we're already in it, which is wild. So it'd be interesting, definitely, for sure. If that man is on a different level, I'll tell you. It's hard to not agree with him on everything, because he's just so talented. Except for him naming his child, I disagree with that one pretty heavily. I don't understand it.
I don't know. I would love to have a unique name. You know how many Nathan Prices there are out there? It's like so many.
Yeah, no, I get the uniqueness of it, but it's just like a barcode. It's like
a barcode. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Do you know the name of his son?
It's like XAE9 or something.
It's absurd. It's
I think they just call him Little X, which that works.
Little X, that works.
Little X.
Yeah, it's XAEA-12, whatever that means.
Yeah, I know, it's something else. Something else. Well, Kevin, I really appreciate your time, and it's so good to hear about your story, and it's very motivating. I know we covered a lot of things, but was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we sort of wrap things up?
You let me talk about black holes. I never got to probably talk about that. So about letting me talk about the theory and how you can manufacture yourself into the definition of a god. I know it seems like a narcissistic, and completely my character theory, but I think that, to be honest, it would be interesting to see if someone could ever do that. And if you could create your own universe, or you could create a capsule to be able to go inside black holes. I love the movie Interstellar. Like, to see what's within would be pretty incredible, especially if you created it. So that would be interesting for sure.
Yeah, there's a science fiction author, Frederick Pohl. I think he died in like 2013 or something like that. But he was like a prolific science fiction writer. But he wrote a lot of books where there's like a civilization that kind of went into a black hole and there are civilizations in a black hole. It's kind of interesting.
I'm definitely going to read that book. I wrote down the name of it. I'm going to read that one. That one's going to be one I actually read and doesn't just gather dust on the bookshelf. That sounds, think about that often. Just so fascinated with black holes and just so many things we don't understand yet. So in our lifetime, we probably won't, but it's cool to guess and cool to make theories around them and just see what pans out.
Well, you have a good rest of your day, Kevin, and thank you again so much.
You, man. Seriously,
good meeting you too.
I really appreciate you. Take care.
Likewise. Take care.